Today on Inquirer, President Bongbong Marcos vetoes 3 items in 2023 national budget. Marcos vows to fulfill promise to build 1 million housing units per year.
We will continue to break ground in different parts around the country para naman yung ating pinapangarap na 1 million homes a year, pagka naabot natin yun, at least napakalaking bagay na yan.
Department of Foreign Affairs says it is seriously concerned over China's reported reclamation activities in Spratlys. China dismisses report, says it's fake news. And MMFF Parade of Stars returns to the streets of Metro Manila this year. Good evening. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has vetoed 3 items in the 2023 national budget. To talk about this, here's our palace reporter Daphne Galvez. So, Daphne?
President Bongbong Marcos has rejected 3 provisions in the 2023 General Appropriations Act, which contains the 5.2 trillion peso national budget for next year. In his veto message, Marcos said the rejected provisions do not relate to any particular appropriation and would effectively amend substantive laws. Among the provisions the president vetoed is the use of revolving funds for DepEd TV of the Department of Education. Marcos said there is no law authorizing the department to create a revolving fund for the purpose. He also reasoned that the DepEd TV is not a business-type activity where a revolving fund can be established from its receipts. The president also rejected the provision prohibiting the use of funds to change the country's tourism campaign. He said the provision intends to limit the exercise of the functions of the executive branch in implementing the Tourism Act. Under the said law, the Department of Tourism is the primary agency for the planning, implementation, and regulation of the tourism industry's promotion. Finally, Marcos vetoed the provision on the use of income of the National Labor Relations Commission, or NLRC. He said the subject income already forms part of the revenue and financing sources of the 2023 National Expenditure Program. Presidential Decree number 1445 also states that income accruing to agencies shall be deposited in the National Treasury or in any duly authorized government depository and shall accrue to the unappropriated surplus of the general fund of the government. Marcos also said that the NLRC is not authorized to use its income since its operations are fully provided under its budget. The president signed the 2023 national budget law last December 16. This spending plan is the first full budget of Marcos's administration, which seeks to put more emphasis on agriculture. On Wednesday, Marcos reaffirmed his vow to provide 1 million housing units for indigent families every year during his 6-year term. The president led the groundbreaking ceremony of the housing project in Palayan City, Nueva Ecija, which is part of his administration's Pambansang Pabahay para sa Pilipino program. According to Malacanang, the project will have 11,000 housing units, a new school, a market, among other community facilities. Back to you, Neil.
Daphne, so just to summarize it quickly, President Marcos has signed the 2023 national budget, but he vetoed 3 items in that budget. So the question now is, which agencies got the most budget for next year?
Yes, Neil, DepEd got the biggest share of next year's budget, which amounts to 900.9 billion pesos. That includes a confidential and intelligence fund of 150 million at the disposal of Education Secretary Vice President Sara Duterte. DepEd was followed by the Department of Public Works and Highways at 881.9 billion pesos and the Department of Health at 334.9 billion pesos. It can be also noted, Neil, that the Department of Agriculture, which of course President Marcos heads, was given a budget of 178.7 billion pesos. This is 43.9% higher from this year's allocation.
So despite the pushback from some lawmakers in the House of Representatives and the Senate, the confidential and intelligence funds under the DepEd was retained. So Daphne, I believe this is the largest budget we've had, the largest national budget that we've had so far in Philippine history. Please correct me if I'm wrong with that information. So with that said, what is the primary vision of the Marcos administration with regard to this budget? Is it addressing the pandemic still, or are we moving towards a recovery?
Correct, Neil. The 2023 budget is 4.9% higher than this year's 5.02 trillion. For its vision, next year's spending plan seeks to support the administration's goal of economic transformation. This is ultimately to raise the growth of the country's gross domestic product or GDP. The
Mhm,
president also earlier said that the National Expenditure Program, which was the basis for the budget, was
mhm.
anchored on his agenda for prosperity. And also, Neil, based on the shared agencies on the budget, we can see that this administration intends to focus on education, infrastructure, health, and agriculture.
Mhm.
Neil?
Okay. Thanks, Daphne. That's Daphne Galvez reporting live. The Department of Foreign Affairs has expressed concern about China's reported reclamation activities in the Spratlys Islands, unoccupied reefs in the South China Sea, but the Chinese embassy dubs these reports as fake news. To tell us more, here's Denisa Fernandez reporting live. Denisa.
The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, is seriously concerned about the reported development activities by China in the Spratly Islands and occupied reefs in the South China Sea. A Bloomberg article published on Tuesday said that China is accused of building up unoccupied land features in the disputed sea. The DFA said, and we quote, "We are seriously concerned as such activities contravene the Declaration of Conduct on the South China Sea's Undertaking on Self-Restraint and the 2016 Arbitral Award. We have asked relevant Philippine agencies to verify and validate the contents of this report." End quote. In 2016, the Philippines won the arbitration case it lodged against China's Nine-Dash Line claim over the South China Sea. The United Nations backed Permanent Court of Arbitration invalidated China's Nine-Dash Line claim and ruled that the Philippines has exclusive sovereign rights over the West Philippine Sea and the South China Sea. Meanwhile, China is dismissing the reported development activities in the Spratly Islands as fake news. The Spratly Islands is being claimed wholly and in part by several countries, including the Philippines. Earlier, the Department of National Defense aired great concern on the swarming of Chinese vessels in the West Philippine Sea. The Philippines so far lodged 193 diplomatic protests against China this year.
Mhm. Denisa being seriously concerned is one thing, but in, acting on these issues, addressing these issues is another thing. So, what concrete actions has the Marcos administration done to address this issue? Because this issue has been a long-standing issue faced not just by the Marcos government but also by prior administrations.
Yes, Neil, to recall in previous incidents in the West Philippine Sea, the Philippines have filed diplomatic protests and issued note
Mhm.
verbals. But for this specific incident, the DFA is still looking into the details of the report and verification is still underway.
Mhm. Denisa, in my research, it seems like the stand of President Marcos is that he still fights for the sovereignty of the Philippines in these disputed islands, but he still wants to maintain a friendly relationship with China, with the U.S. and other allied nations of the Philippines. But the question now of the public is he willing to go beyond the filing diplomatic protests?
Neil, National Security Advisor Clarita Carlos earlier said that the Marcos administration will pursue diplomatic protests against foreign aggressions in the Philippine territory. In fact, Neil, of the 193 diplomatic protests lodged this year, 65 were filed during the current
Mhm.
administration.
Okay, thanks, Denisa. That's Denisa Fernandez reporting live. Some related stories, Senator Risa Hontiveros is expecting President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s firm assertion of the country's rights in the West Philippine Sea during his state visit to China in January. In a statement, Hontiveros said that Marcos' meetings with Chinese President Xi Jinping should be in the context of Beijing's incursion into Philippine jurisdiction. She added that every engagement should be premised upon China's recognition of the Philippines' rightful ownership of the West Philippine Sea. Hontiveros also said Marcos should assert to Xi that the Philippines will not give up an inch of the Philippine territory. According to the senator, China must also acknowledge and respect the 2016 arbitral ruling before Manila and Beijing begin talks on a joint exploration in the West Philippine Sea. In 2016, the Permanent Court of Arbitration invalidated China's 9-line claim and ruled that Philippines has exclusive sovereign rights over the West Philippine Sea in the South China Sea. Recently, all senators unanimously supported a resolution denouncing the persisting intimidation, threats, and harassment of Chinese vessels to Philippine boats and personnel. Hontiveros said that Marcos would be well advised to review the resolution and make an unyielding stand for the country. For our next story, for Christmas and the New Year, the San Miguel Corporation is waiving toll in its major expressways, including the Skyway, but warned motorists of heavy holiday traffic. As part of the company's holiday tradition, a toll will be waived at the Star, SLEX, and the Skyway system, NAIA X, and the T-Plex. According to a statement from the company, SMC President Ramon S. Ang said that the toll holiday will take place from December 24 at 10 p.m. to December 25 at 6 a.m. and from December 31 at 10 p.m. to January 1 at 6 a.m. However, Ang warned of the usual traffic that happens during the holidays. He urged motorists to plan their trips ahead and leave earlier, especially for those who need to catch scheduled flights or bus trips. Additional personnel will also be deployed to help scan auto-sweep cards for drivers in line, so SMC advised motorists to always keep their cards ready. Auto-sweep customer service centers and the RFID installation kiosks at gasoline stations along SLEX will also remain open for the holidays, added SMC. The Metro Manila Film Festival Parade of Stars makes a comeback this year. To tell us more, here's our entertainment reporter, Hannah Mallorca, reporting live from Quezon City. Hannah.
Hi, Neil. So, despite the cloudy weather, fans warmly welcomed their favorite artist, who joined the Metro Manila Film Festival's Parade of Stars, which is happening for the first time after 2 years, when the COVID-19 pandemic had shut down such activities. 8 films are competing for the top awards in the MMFF, while 8 float entries are vying for the attention of the fans who would strut across the 7.36-kilometer stretch of Quezon City from Welcome Rotonda to the Quezon Memorial Circle. The streets were filled to the brim with adoring fans wanting to see their favorite stars aboard their film's floats, each one more colorful than the others. Some celebs would actually accommodate fans who would take their pictures and shout-outs as they invite them to watch their movie. Participating films include Deleted, starring Nadine Lustre, Macoy De Leon, and Luis de los Reyes; Family Matters, starring Noel Trinidad, Liza Lorena, Noni Buencamino; Mama Sapano, now it can be told that by Edo Manzano, Tracy De Vera, and Alstra Brenica; My Father, Myself, with Jake Cuenca, Dimples Romana, and Sean De Guzman; Labio Winnet Accent, starring Coco Martin and Jody Santa Maria; Nanahimik ang Gabi, with Ian Veneracion and Heaven Peralejo; Partners in Crime with Vice Ganda and Ivana Alawi; and lastly, My Teacher, starring Tony Gonzaga and Joey De Leon. The MMFF Parade of Stars signals the countdown to the much-awaited Metro Manila Film Festival, which will run from Christmas Day, or December 25, to January 7, 2023.
Of course, alam ko naman ng mga Pilipino
Following
laging excited
this
sa
news, balik saya ang
MMFF. Pero
MMFF
kailangan
2022.
nating suportahan ngayon kasi, di ba? Kasi post-pandemic and lahat tayo excited. And yun nga sabi ko, chance na natin ngayon to help the industry na makabangon. And of course, if we make
Following this
this
news, balik
work, this
saya ang
MMFF,
MMFF.
mas maraming mapuproduce na films, mas maraming
48th Metro
trabaho ang
Manila Film
maibibigay natin,
Festival
hindi
will
lang
be
sa
held
mga
in
artista,
December.
and of course, sa mga tao sa film. Yun ang pinaka-importante, yung mga crew, yung mga staff, yun yung pinaka masarap sa puso kasi sila talaga yung naapektuhan, di ba? And of course, for our economy and para na rin sa cultural pagbango natin, kumbaga, eto na. Kasi pag sinuportahan natin to, mas marami tayong magagawang marami pang pelikula.
Following the theme Baliksaya ang MMFF 2022, the awards night of the 48th Metro Manila Film Festival will be held on December 27 at the New Frontier Theater in Quezon City.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Hannah. Can't wait to watch these movies. And these are the stories you need to know today. I'm Neil Mercado. It's 4 days before Christmas. Nako, mukhang kailangan na mag-Christmas shopping. Follow INQUIRER.net on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. For more stories, visit INQUIRER.net. Good evening.